Start exit 21.
Imagine it's 1961. The scent of fresh vinyl hits you as you step into a small-town Dodge dealership. Chrome glistens under fluorescent lights. Thunderbirds, Darts, and Polaras are parked proudly, flexing their muscle and size. But in the corner, smaller, sleeker, a bit strange, sits something else. A car with V-shaped grille lines, long hood, and a fastback silhouette that doesn't quite fit the era. The badge reads, Lancer, and you pause. What is this thing? Not a Valiant, not a Dart, it's different. Forgotten by most today, the 1961-62 Dodge Lancer was Chrysler's quick-footed answer to the rising compact craze. A desperate but daring move born not from inspiration, but necessity. The story of the Lancer isn't just about a car, it's about timing, pressure, and ambition. A machine that carried the weight of dealership demands and corporate confusion on its shoulders. Today on Regal Rides, we dive deep into the legacy of the Lancer, the overlooked warrior Chrysler unleashed into battle, only to abandon just as the fight began. By the late 1950s, the American auto industry was hitting a strange crossroad. The chrome-laden giants that had ruled the roads since the end of World War II were starting to feel like dinosaurs in a world that was suddenly craving agility. 1955 had been a peak year. Sales were booming, drive-ins were full, and big fins meant big status. But then came 1957, and with it a sudden economic downturn. Gas prices rose, credit tightened, and suddenly the proud American sedan began to look bloated. People wanted smaller, lighter, more economical rides. On top of that, foreign invaders, led by the quirky but dependable Volkswagen Beetle, began stealing market share right off Detroit's showroom floors. Chrysler, GM, and Ford found themselves flat-footed. Ford answered with the Falcon. GM countered with an entire lineup: Corvair, Buick Special, Olds F-85, Pontiac Tempest. Plymouth responded with the Valiant. But Dodge had nothing. Their showrooms were void of compacts, and dealers were panicking. What good is a dealer if he has nothing to sell to a customer asking for economy? Chrysler had to move, and fast. The Lancer wouldn't be born from a desire to innovate. It would be born out of urgency, and the storm that was shaking the foundations of Detroit's golden age. There are cars that emerge from years of meticulous engineering, shaped by visionary designers and backed by bold marketing dreams. And then there's the Dodge Lancer. Born in a boardroom, not a studio. Forged in urgency, not passion. In early 1960, with Plymouth's Valiant on the market and selling reasonably well, Dodge dealerships were left out in the cold. The corporate solution? Repackage the Valiant, but make it look like something new. Fast, designers were handed the Valiant's underpinnings and told to transform it into a Dodge, practically overnight. The result was a car that wore entirely new skin, a sculpted fastback silhouette, a bold V-shaped grille, and trim that hinted at sportiness. Officially launched in 1961, the Dodge Lancer came in two trim levels, the 170 and the more upscale 770, and was offered as a two-door and four-door sedan, hardtop coupe, and station wagon. But make no mistake, this wasn't just a badge engineering job. From the hood to the rear fenders, most of the Lancer's sheet metal was unique. The roofline and rear doors were shared with the Valiant on sedans, but Chrysler's designers cleverly disguised the relationship. A sharp character crease ended halfway down the front door, breaking the visual link to the Valiant's continuous line. It was quick thinking, clever design, but it wasn't born from creative freedom. It was born from a corporate clock ticking loudly, and Dodge's need to stay alive in the compact war. To understand the Dodge Lancer's look, its almost alien grace, its sweeping curves, and its divisive proportions, we need to step into the mind of one of Detroit's most controversial visionaries, Virgil Exner. As Chrysler's design chief in the 1950s, Exner was the father of the forward look, the bold, jet-age design philosophy that gave us soaring tail fins and space race optimism. But by 1961, the dream had started to curdle. Sales were dropping, critics were skeptical, and Exner, though still visionary, was clashing with the very system he helped define. The Lancer became one of his last statements before being edged out. While based on the humble Valiant chassis, the Lancer's exterior wore dramatic flair. The front end featured a deep, V-shaped grille split by a central blade, a design cue that made it look like it was always in motion. The rear was pure drama, upswept quarter panels that mimicked rocket fins, and taillights that seemed borrowed from a Buck Rogers sketchpad. Even the trim felt different, a blend of space-age ambition and conservative restraint. But the Lancer's most unique feature? Its proportions. The wheelbase was short, but the overhangs were long. The result was a car that felt taut, but odd, stylish, but slightly off-kilter. Some loved it, others were bewildered, but no one could ignore it. Inside, Exner's design fingerprints were everywhere. The dashboard curved gently toward the driver. Gauges were deep-set and aircraft-like, and the steering wheel, thin-rimmed and chrome-ringed, felt like something plucked from a fighter jet. The upholstery offered two-tone vinyl with futuristic stitch patterns. It didn't scream luxury, but it whispered sci-fi. The Lancer wasn't beautiful in a traditional sense, but it was brave, and in the conservative compact class of the early 60s, brave was rare. Under the Lancer's long, dramatic hood beat a heart that didn't just hum, it sang with defiant innovation. Chrysler's legendary slant 6 engine wasn't just a quirky engineering choice, it was a mechanical statement. Canted at a 30-degree angle, the Leaning Tower of Power was more than just a nickname. It gave the engine bay a lower profile, improved service access, and allowed for a longer intake manifold, which boosted performance and efficiency. Available in both 170 and 225 cubic inch displacements, this six-cylinder wasn't here to play catch-up. It was built to outlast, outperform, and outthink the competition. The 225 Slant 6 was especially revered. This engine had a reputation for rugged reliability and surprising spirit. But Chrysler didn't stop there. For those who wanted real bite, there was the mythical Hyperpack package, a dealer-installed performance kit that transformed the mild-mannered Lancer into a compact street assassin. Equipped with a hotter camshaft, free-flowing exhaust, a 4-barrel carburetor, and revised ignition, the Hyperpack 225 churned out a staggering 195 horsepower, nearly V8 territory in a compact shell. In sanctioned drag racing, Lancers with Hyperpack kits stunned audiences, posting quarter-mile times that embarrassed bigger, pricier rivals. It was Dodge's quiet rebellion, hiding muscle car ambition inside an economy car wrapper. And yet, few knew, fewer bought. The Hyperpack became legend, whispered in drag strips and back-alley garages. The Lancer's hidden identity, like Clark Kent's glasses hiding Superman. You'd think a sleek fastback compact with futuristic styling and a secret performance weapon would be easy to sell. But here's the truth, the Dodge Lancer never got a fair fight, and the blame falls squarely on how it was marketed. While Ford was plastering billboards with the Falcon's fuel economy and GM was touting innovation across 5 divisions, Dodge was uncertain. Their messaging flip-flopped between upscale refinement, youthful sportiness, and practical economy, never quite settling on a single identity for the Lancer. Dodge ads in 1961 called it the compact in the large economy size, emphasizing its space and comfort. Others leaned into its style, showcasing the dramatic roofline and chrome detailing. But none told a coherent story. Worse, the Dodge brand itself was in flux. Unlike Plymouth, which had fully embraced the compact segment with the Valiant, Dodge seemed almost reluctant, as if embarrassed to be playing in the small car sandbox. The Lancer was caught in a corporate identity crisis. Its brochures promised both family savings and fastback excitement, confusing buyers who didn't know if they were getting a sporty coupe or a scaled-down sedan. The Hyperpack performance potential, barely mentioned. TV spots and dealer flyers avoided talking about it, missing a golden chance to grab gearheads craving budget performance. And Dodge's dealer network, desperate for anything to sell, wasn't equipped to champion this new misunderstood machine. Trained to push big iron like the Dart or Polar, they struggled to pitch a car that didn't fit the brand's muscle image or Plymouth's economy edge. In the end, the Lancer became a marketing orphan, well-built, well-engineered, and totally misrepresented. For all its odd proportions and underdog origins, the Dodge Lancer surprised a lot of people once it hit the road. In an era where compact usually meant compromise, the Lancer held its own, and in some cases even outclassed the competition. Period road tests from publications like Motor Trend and Car Life noted its responsive handling, firm ride and impressive acceleration, especially when equipped with the 225 Slant 6 or even rarer, the Hyperpack. This wasn't just a city commuter. The Lancer could move. Owners echoed the sentiment. While it never had the fanfare of a Mustang or the cult of a Beetle, the Lancer carved out a quiet fan base, people who appreciated its mechanical simplicity, its space-age style and its durability. Mechanics respected the Slant 6 as nearly indestructible. Families appreciated the interior room, especially in wagons and 4-door sedans. And the coupe, it had a quiet coolness. It looked like something Flash Gordon would have driven to prom. On the road, the Lancer felt solid for its size. It cornered flat, braked predictably, and cruised at highway speeds without complaint. It was no muscle car, but it was no slug either. The push-button automatic transmission, while quirky, offered smooth shifts. And thanks to its lightweight design, even the base 100 and SLS offered decent pep around town. But there were issues too. Road noise was a common complaint. Build quality, while better than some GM compacts of the era, could be inconsistent. And the styling, while daring, didn't age gracefully for everyone. Some buyers just couldn't get past the odd proportions or exaggerated lines. The car looked fast, but didn't always feel fast enough. Still, for those who gave it a shot, the Lancer was a solid little warrior. Quiet, capable, and in hindsight, far more interesting than its sales numbers ever suggested. Despite its solid engineering, stylish oddity, and surprising performance, the Dodge Lancer was a short-lived player, discontinued after just 2 model years. So, what went wrong? First, branding confusion. Dodge customers weren't used to buying compacts. That was Plymouth's territory. The Lancer, built on a Valiant platform, left some buyers scratching their heads. Was it a true Dodge or just a rebadged Plymouth with a tuxedo? Chrysler's rush to fill a gap meant they skipped the groundwork needed to build long-term confidence in the model. Many buyers simply didn't understand what the Lancer was supposed to be. Second, internal politics. Plymouth dealers were furious. The Valiant had been developed as their compact savior, and now Dodge was selling a sibling model that looked flashier and cost more. This sparked friction inside Chrysler's dealer network, which weakened support across the board. Instead of unifying behind one strong compact, Chrysler fractured its resources. Third, the styling. Virgil Exner's vision was bold, perhaps too bold. By 1962, the car-buying public was already swinging back toward clean lines and less dramatic flair. The Lancer's sweeping fins, exaggerated creases, and fastback rear looked outdated just months after release. It had been designed at the tail end of an era and then tossed into a new one. Fourth, price. The Lancer was simply more expensive than competitors like the Ford Falcon and Chevy Corvair, and buyers looking at compact cars in 1961 weren't shopping for style, they were shopping for value. The Lancer's price premium, despite its better performance and looks, hurt it where it counted, at the cash register. In short, the Lancer didn't fail because it was a bad car. It failed because it was a misunderstood one, a victim of corporate urgency, dealership drama, and timing that couldn't have been worse. By 1963, Dodge had seen enough. Despite the Lancer's potential, the compact experiment hadn't panned out the way they hoped. So, in a swift and almost silent move, Chrysler did something that confused even loyal fans. They retired the Lancer name and brought back the Dodge Dart. Yes, that Dart. The nameplate Dodge had already used for a full-sized car just a few years earlier. But in 1963, the Dart was reborn as a true compact, slotting into the exact spot the Lancer had just vacated. And with it came clarity, simplicity, and something the Lancer lacked, brand familiarity. The new Dart shared some mechanical DNA with the Lancer, same basic chassis layout, same slant 6 engine options, but with reworked styling that aligned with the rising trends of the mid-60s. Gone were the swoopy Exner lines. In their place, clean, squared-off fenders, a conventional grille, a more upright roofline. It wasn't flashy, but it looked modern, and more importantly, it looked like a Dodge. Dealers embraced the Dart almost instantly. It carried a name customers already recognized, and it didn't spark the same turf war with Plymouth. Sales surged. The Dart was available in multiple trims, and unlike the Lancer, it benefited from stronger advertising support and a clearer identity in the market. Chrysler had learned from the Lancer's failure and corrected almost every mistake, and the irony? The Dodge Dart, launched from the ashes of the Lancer, would go on to become one of the most successful compact cars Dodge ever built. It lasted more than a decade, outliving many of its competitors, and becoming a common sight in American driveways well into the 1970s. The Lancer, in contrast, vanished quietly. No farewell ads, no collector buzz. Just 2 strange, fascinating years, erased by the return of a familiar name. Most forgotten cars fade quietly into the junkyards of history, but the Dodge Lancer wouldn't stay buried forever. Nearly 2 decades after its 1962 departure, Chrysler dusted off the nameplate in but what returned wasn't the stylish, Exner-designed compact of the early 60s. Instead, it was a badge-engineered rebirth, a rebadged version of the front-wheel drive Chrysler LeBaron GTS, riding on Chrysler's then-new K-car-based H-body platform. The 1985-1989 Dodge Lancer was a completely different beast. It had a modern aerodynamic hatchback silhouette, fuel-injected engines, and front-wheel drive. No fins, no flair, and no resemblance to its 1961 ancestor. Yet despite its uninspired design roots, this new Lancer carved out a quiet reputation for being surprisingly quick, especially in its sportiest form. The 1987 Lancer Shelby. Yes, that Shelby. Carroll Shelby, the same man who once gave us Cobra Mustangs and fire-breathing GT350s, partnered with Dodge in the 80s to inject some adrenaline into their compact lineup. The result? A turbocharged 2.2-liter 4-cylinder Lancer with upgraded suspension, aggressive styling, and Shelby badges on the fenders. It was no muscle car, but it was fast, rare, and handled better than most expected. Still, even with Shelby's touch, the Lancer never reached icon status. Sales dwindled, and by 1989 the name was retired again, this time for good. Once more the Lancer faded from Dodge's lineup and public memory, never regaining the curiosity or controversy of its 1961-62 debut. But for those who remembered, the resurrection proved something strange. Even Chrysler couldn't quite let go of the Lancer. There was something in the name, an echo of bold, strange choices and compact rebellion that lingered, even decades later. The 1961-62 Dodge Lancer was never a sales giant. It didn't win major awards. It didn't start a design revolution. And to most casual car fans today, it barely registers as a footnote. But look closer, and you'll see something much deeper. A car that mattered because it was imperfect, rushed, and awkward. Because it was honest. The Lancer wasn't born to impress. It was born to survive. To plug a hole Chrysler couldn't afford to leave empty. It wasn't just a compact, it was a lifeline. A stopgap that allowed Dodge dealers to stay in the game, while Detroit figured out its next move. And in doing so, it gave us a glimpse into the real pressures behind the scenes, where designers battled the clock, where brand identity bent under corporate needs, and where vehicles weren't just machines, they were chess pieces. Yes, the Lancer was weird. It had a fastback that looked too fast for its platform, a grille too aggressive for its size, and performance that flirted with greatness but never fully arrived. Yet that's what makes it fascinating. It was a car caught between two eras, the last flickers of jet-age optimism and the cold wind of economic realism. For collectors today, the Lancer is rare, not just because few were made or survived, but because it's a snapshot, a time capsule of American auto industry compromise, creativity under constraint, and Virgil Exner's final design breath. It's not a car that screams for attention, but to those who notice it, those who truly see it, the Dodge Lancer is unforgettable. It didn't fail because it wasn't good. It failed because the world moved faster than Chrysler could keep up. But in that failure, it told a story more powerful than most successes ever could. If stories like this speak to your soul, if you believe every forgotten classic deserves a second look, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your favorite hidden gem, and share this with a fellow gearhead. Because Regal Rides is just getting started, and the next legend we uncover might just be the one you forgot you loved.